Welcome. Let's begin with the Kurukshetra January 2019 edition. This talks about empowering the rural youth. Now, two of the very important concepts that have been covered in this edition are the Suryamitra Program, very important, and the Village Adoption Program. So, those two have been really important, very important even for your upcoming prelims examination. So, we'll be talking about all these programs, the major policies that have come up. Now, let's first talk about some of the major schemes. So, Awas scheme, that's housing for all in the rural area, is one of the major schemes. When we talk about Digital India, BHIM app, NPCI payments, the UPI payment is another important aspect. MUDRA scheme, where we are talking about 100 days of guaranteed employment in the rural areas to the rural youth, is again important. So those are some of the major aspects that we have covered. The next is the Strat-Up Village Entrepreneurship, where we are helping the rural poors, mainly the artisans and the weavers, to develop to become enterprising and have more employment generating opportunities with them. Village Adoption Program, very important. This promotes basically entrepreneurship for the food processing, agri-business. You have Samragya Shiksha Abhiyan, which we have already talked in our classes on the expected questions on education. This provides the opportunities for rural youth for technology in education. So basically the teaching programs and technology related to that. PMJDY is for digital literacy among the youth. So that's again very important. Then we come on to the empowerment of the rural youth. As we look on to the statistics, we have nearly 62% of the population which is below 60 years of the age. Around 65% of the youth of India is below 35 years of age. So definitely India has abundant youth that can be utilized for generating the resources. So human development, or HRD, is really important in India. If we contrast our median age population to other countries, our median age population is only 28 years. That's much more younger. Okay, India is 4th largest in terms of coal resources in the world. We have a very good demographic potential that could be developed, and a lot of skilled and non-skilled labor that could be utilized. So what we are talking about is the total population, which is nearly 40%, and that comprises of youth. We also have the Awas Rural Yojana, where we are talking about building nearly 1 crore houses for the rural households. We have agricultural clinics coming up, agri-business centers coming up, common services that are coming up. We have numerous population, the labor force that is being involved in the rural areas. So skill development, LPG connections into the rural areas, withdrawing from the wood that is being used for the cooking is some of the major aspects that have been developed. So what we are working towards is a 2-point agenda for the startup programs. First is to improve the economic indicators, and secondly is to provide more incentives even at the lower level. So those are some of the major aspects that we cover here. The next is the e-market portal, that's the ENAM, the Electronic National Agricultural Market, through which all the agricultural mandis have been unified. We are talking about Department for Industrial Policy and Promotion. Here we are talking about the startup program. We have the MUDRA scheme that we have already talked about. Similar to the Awas Yojana, we have the Sadak Yojana, where we are talking about the rural connectivity, the transport facilities that are being provided to the rural to the rural areas. We have the Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay Yojana for the National Rural Livelihood Mission, the NRLM, what it is called as. We are also talking about the Kaushal Yojana, that's the skill development among the rural youth. MUDRA scheme, that's for self-financing. Self-employment is again being promoted in the rural areas. Then we have the NAPS scheme. This is very important for your prelims. So the National Apprentice Program Promotion Scheme. Now this has an objective of training up to nearly 50 lakh youth by 2020. Now when you have your prelims paper, you have questions basically based on statements. So you must be very clear what are the basic tenements of these schemes that have come up. So government would share nearly 25% of the stipend up to maximum of 1500 per month. Some of the important facilities talks about registration of the establishment to declare their own vacancies, to search their own candidates, work around the claims that are being coming up. It's a kind of time bound approval process, and it takes basically all necessary contractual obligations that are there. You also have this state apprenticeship advisors that are there. The portal allows you for contract jobs that are there and optional trades that would be part of it. Then we also talk about the rural self-employment training institutes. It's basically a three-way partnership between the Ministry of Rural Development, the state government and the various banks. So you have the various entrepreneurship development programs that are up. Very important. We are also talking about dual system of training, which is basically the vocational education along with the skill building. So practical training, practical skill development is something that is being focused. We are focusing on skill development, Kaushal Vikas Yojana, the employability enhancement, which talks about enhancing the skills for employment opportunities, generating more employment centers. India International Skill Centers are part of it. The pre-departure orientation program. Now this enhances the soft skills that the students have, that the common people have, mainly in the field of culture, language. We also have the Shikshan Sansthan. These are basically the Shramik Vidyapeeth, which were earlier known as, where unskilled people are empowered to go into more of skilled jobs that they can go for. So vocational courses are promoted. We are talking about suggestive activities that they can help for. Similarly, we have the National Council for Vocational Education and Training. This talks about recognizing the awarding bodies, approving the qualifications by the awarding bodies, putting up indirect regulations for the vocational training. When it comes to educating the rural youth, Samraghi Shiksha Abhiyan is one of the important aspects where we are improving the school effectiveness. So digital education and skill development is the two issues that we are talking about. Saakshar Bharat program includes 4 aspects. These are important. Which of the following is not an aspect of the Saakshar Bharat program? So it basically focuses on 3 R's, that is reading, writing and arithmetic, aims to improve the literacy, and the 4 elements are imparting functional literacy, equivalence to a formal education system that's there, skill development, and promoting a learning society with more opportunities that are part of it. The next important aspect that we are talking about is Shikshan Sansthan, that we have already talked about. So it aims at life enrichment programs. Beneficiaries are basically aimed to become much more self-reliant. The Digital India is one of the major aspects that we are working around, which focuses on 3 pillars: digital literacy, government services being provided digitally, and development of secure digital infrastructure. When it comes to national scholarship, we are talking about a SMART scheme. So that is simplified, mission-oriented, accountable, responsible and transparent system. So what is SMART is really important. So it's basically effective dispersal of your scholarships that are being given to the students. Apprenticeship training we have already talked about. The programs under AICTE talks about post graduate scholarships, scholarship for the girl child, that's the Pragati scholarship, Saksham scholarship for differentially abled students, the INEC travel grant for presenting the papers abroad. Then we have the Prerna scheme, that's for SC/ST students, Samriddhi scheme again for SC/ST student startups, that is there. SPACA, that's for participating in competitions abroad outside India. Smart Hackathon has been organized. We have the National Postdoctoral Fellowship coming up, that's after the doctorate. So postdoctorate fellow research scheme as in line with the DBT, the Department of Biotechnology. We also have the various financial inclusion programs. So financial inclusion and digital inclusion go line in line. So we have the Jan-Dhan accounts being opened for financial inclusion. The idea is to alleviate the poverty issues, bring in more saving concepts, bring in more credit facilities, funds, remittance into the system. So everything could be in line with your the financial inclusion scheme. So Jan-Dhan scheme has been a big direction in this way. 6 pillars of the Jan-Dhan Yojana are important. This is very important for your mains examination. So the pillars of the Jan-Dhan scheme you should be very familiar with. So those are given there. And then you have the certain guidelines for the Jan-Dhan account to be opened. Similarly, you have the Start-Up India and the Stand-Up India that we have been talking across the various lectures. The MUDRA scheme, that's for refinancing and microcredits. So we have the data on the financial inclusion. So these kind of statistics would help you substantiate your answers for your mains purpose. Shishu loan, among the 3 loans, the Tarun and the Kishore, the Shishu loan, the share is highest. The various policy implications have been taking place. Now what comes important is very crucial for your economics section, that's NABARD. NABARD. NABARD was formed by the Act of Parliament in 1982. It's an organization that aims at providing sustainable and equitable agricultural growth and development. So capacity building, microfinancing have been an important aspect. Self-help groups have been working great in this direction. You have micro enterprise development programs coming up, livelihood development programs coming up. So those are some of the important programs that are coming up. Now what we are talking about is the Vikas voluntary Vahini. Now this has 5 principles that talks about development through credit. So it first talks about credit should be in accordance to the technology. The conditions of the credit should be well done. Work must be done with good skill. There should be additional income that should be generated, loan installments should be given. Then we are also talking about agri-clinics and agri-businesses that are coming up. So those are some of the important aspects. Tribal Development Fund and Farmers Produce Organization. Now FPO is very important for your prelims as well as mains. So what is the importance is we are trying to benefit the farmers by joining FPO through bringing the farmers together. So they have a kind of collective voice, collective opinion that they can work around. They can help in negotiating the various aspects, bring in the supplies of the various inputs, improve the capability, offer financial support, aggregate crop produce could be done, and the skill development in the non-farm sector could be promoted. So those are some of the important aspects that are part of it. Then when we talk about the Stand Up India, we are also talking about the agri-business incubation centers where we can increase the agricultural productivity. BIRD is a very important aspect, that is Bankers Institute for Rural Development, located in Lucknow, Mangalore and Bolpur. So that's really important, the locations of the BIRD institutions. Then we have the skilling through Suryamitra. Now this basically focuses on renewable sources of energy. So we are bringing in more technicians for solar energy. The target is to achieve 175 gigawatts of energy by 2022, and of which 100 gigawatts could be achieved through solar energy. So a lot of skilled technicians could be developed for solar projects, and the solar development could be in line with it. So 10+2 pass students are the basic aspects that have been incorporated into it. We have the Suryamitra mobile app that is coming up. This would be serving the customer. The technician could visit at a very low cost of 150 per visit. And then you have various ministries which are working together in line to develop this skilled manpower. So we are also talking about information and communication. This is very important. So information and communication technology, we have SkyMet. So SkyMet is the largest weather monitoring setup that has been established in India. Frontal rain technology is making things more accessible through computers. So dealing in commodities, mainly groceries, fishes, cattle feed are some of the major aspects. AgroStar is a genuine agricultural inputs being provided to the farmers at their home. So you have Ekgaon technology which provides technology to the farmers with various range of services. You have Mitra scheme, very important. So machine, information, technology, resource and agriculture. Now all these schemes are very important for your prelims perspective. As I said, crop-in technology which talks about smart farms, Eurekva technology which talks about solar powered floating equipments, which is a very unique concept in itself. We have Bhuvan software which talks about the ground inputs from the data that could be received, Chaman scheme that talks about horticulture, Fasal scheme that talks about forecast for the agriculture, NADMAS talks about assessing the areas where agricultural drought could be seen. We have various Android apps that have come up, mainly the Bhuvan Hailstorm app, M-Kisan, CCE Agriculture, Ground Truth, which monitors the crop health. So those are some of the major developments. ENAM we have already discussed. In the health sectors, you have numerous developments that have come up. Now when it comes to employment, we have some of the very important initiatives coming up. So Drishti is basically origin of Jan-Dhan program in Dhar. This talks about e-governance. Aksh is an optic fiber company that talks about providing and maintaining the cable that is being laid into the rural areas. NLOC is basically initiative of IIT Chennai which merges or streams the hardware and the software innovations. ITC is leading for e-Chopal. So you have 4 different products. Those are coffee, wheat, soybean and shrimp. Tara Heart is important. So you have numerous Tara Kendra that have been established, and then you have Tara Gyan which is an educational content provider in the same field. Similarly, we have food processing that has been given a thrust. So, FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization, is talking about improving the capabilities of the food production, talking about more skill generation in the same field, bringing in or relieving the population pressure that is there, and developing the leadership aspects. We also have the primary and the secondary food processing centers, where you have the value addition that could be done to the local food processing. VAP, as we said, is very important for your prelims and mains. So, Village Adoption Program, it talks about team teaches the farmers. We have the team which facilitates the entrepreneurship programs, empowers the rural youth, brings in more development. So, those have been some of the real developments that we have witnessed so far. Sanitation has been one of the major concerns in rural areas. So, we have been constantly working on the upgraded statistics. This has been up with every Yojana in Kurukshetra. So, every new edition is there with your sanitation issues that have come up. Now coming on to the innovation in the rural areas. So you have the Kaushal Vikas Yojana that we have already talked about. Development and entrepreneurship as one of the major aspects. We are also working on the Ustad scheme, which talks about preserving the traditional heritage. The digital Shiksha Abhiyan, which talks about at least one person per household should have a digital literacy. We are talking about a culture of innovation that could be generated. For the youth in the northeast, we have numerous schemes that have come up related to aviation, soft skills, automobile, essential engineering that could be seen. Similarly, in northeast, we have the Udan scheme for corporate exposure, Sadbhavna scheme that is being run by the army for the youth of Jammu Kashmir, Himmat scheme which aims to train the local people for vocational jobs in Jammu Kashmir. Besides that, we have the Pradhan Mantri Awas Program or Vikas Abhiyan that talks about the youth entrepreneurship to be developed, international youth exchange programs to be taken up, and Khelo India, which would be held in January this year in Pune. So those are some of the major developments that we have been covering. We will be continuing with Yojana in Kurukshetra every month. So stay tuned. Have a wonderful day ahead.